What are the first things to you? What are the most significant, the most important things to you? Assuming you were told that you had only a short while to live, what would you think about doing with the rest of your life? Assuming also that you were staying involved in your professional work or in your present activities. Or perhaps you'd want to change your professional work or your present activities, but you needed to make a livelihood. What would you do with the rest of your life? In other words, I'm asking you to think about the ultimate questions. Now, a follow-up secondary question would be, what keeps you from keeping those first things first? Think about it. Or are you keeping them first? Perhaps you feel like you are. Perhaps you're struggling. You know what we found in doing research among those who have studied the 7 Habits material and really got involved in it? And we've gathered data from survey research on these individuals. This represents over 50,000 managers. You know what habit had the lowest marks universally? Habit 3, first things first. That's one of the reasons we brought out the book, First Things First, when we did. The data was clear that most people kind of inwardly know what they should do, what they should put first, but they don't do it. They seem to be often distracted by other forces in the environment or in their habit patterns or the social agendas of their life, whatever. They get uprooted, and then they begin to experience this inward feeling of loss, this inward emptiness, this void, and it often becomes pervasive. There's a kind of feeling that perhaps my ladder is not leaning against the right wall. But I suggest the fundamental problem is we have a wrong-headed solution, and it is adding to the problem itself. It is a bad paradigm. Paradigm is one of my favorite words. It is a mental map. Some people call it a model, a theoretical explanation, a view of life, a pair of glasses. You could use many different symbols. It's essentially, what is life to you? In other words, how do you see it? I was visiting with a very prominent executive. In fact, he was the number 2 person in a major international corporation. I will never forget the setting. We had just concluded a morning seminar, and he wanted to visit. He was so anxious to get at his basic question, what to do with his own life. I asked him what the problem was, and he immediately responded, "My life has a hole in it. I feel an inward kind of sickness. I have given myself so diligently for so many years to my career that I feel like I have lost the childhood of my children, that I was just not there for them. I was not around enough. And even when I was around and rationalized in the name of quality time and giving them things," he said, "I knew it was not sufficient. When I was home, my mind wasn't home, my heart wasn't home. I was going through the motions. My mind was consumed. I was completely preoccupied with all that was happening, which was exciting, which was very challenging, and which seemed extremely meaningful. But now," he said, "I just feel this enormous void. I feel this emptiness. And you know what? My 3 kids feel the same thing. We've even talked about it together, and we're heartsick about it. All of us would like to, in some way, recover what we have lost." And he said, "Stephen, when you were talking this morning about climbing a ladder of success, and then getting to the top rung, or perhaps near the top rung, discovering at that time that the ladder was leaning against the wrong wall, it hit me most forcibly. It brought all of this to the surface, and that's why I wanted to visit with you. But you know, let me tell you something." And then you could see the excitement in his eyes. You could see his fire. And he pulled out from underneath the booth where he was sitting a blueprint of a home that he was building on the beach in Savannah, Georgia. And it was an intergenerational home. And he wanted to build it for his children and for their children. It was a grandchildren's home. And he was involving his children in the process of designing it. And they were excited, and he was excited. And the mutual excitement between them was synergistic. It created a kind of new life, a new sense of something is happening in our family that has not been there before. He said, I just can't get my head out of it. So if they offer me the job, if they invite me to be the CEO, I'll say one thing for sure. If I'm required to move to the new headquarters, I will not take the job. This other thing's too important to me. If they allow me to stay here in this home where we have so much hope and so much optimism and excitement, then I'll look at it again. But even then, I will look at it in an entirely different way. I'll organize my life in a different way because this is simply too important to me. I am not going to lose this again.